We made a video explaining the differences between a road race bike and an endurance bike, and the comment section was littered with literally a few of you asking us to make a similar video comparing endurance bikes and gravel bikes. Well, ask and you shall receive. Here are the key differences between the two, and we'll try to outline which might be better for you. Before we start delving into the details, it may well be helpful for some of you if we have a look at what gravel bikes and endurance bikes actually are. To many of you this might be obvious, but I really hope that we're attracting new people to the sport, so for their benefit it is well worth a brief explainer. An endurance bike sits in the road category. It is generally considered to be something that is designed for comfort and efficiency over longer rides, and for this reason these bikes are very popular with recreational and club road riders. A gravel bike, meanwhile, is a bike that is designed primarily to be capable on unpaved gravel tracks. A gravel bike is, to be honest, a bit of a null and void term these days because, like the term road bike, it encompasses too many niches. There are gravel bikes for super keen racers, people that want to go cycle camping, and there's even a gravel bike type called monster gravel bikes. Therefore, ridiculously gnarly stuff. But the basic premise is that an endurance road bike goes a long way on the road in comfort, and a gravel bike opens up the stuff that you can't do on a road bike. But what makes these bikes different? First up, we have the most easily identifiable difference, and that is tyre clearance. This is the space in the frame and fork for tyres. The bigger the clearance above and to the side of the tyres, the wider the tyre that you can fit. Tyre clearance matters because it is the main determining factor as to what terrain your bike can comfortably take you over. A super speedy aero race bike won't have that much tyre clearance. It'll be about 30 millimeters. As these bikes are ridden exclusively on paved roads, they don't need more. At the other end of the extreme, a mountain bike can boast clearance of tyres over like 70 millimeters. They need the extra tyre volume for riding over massive rocks and all that scary looking stuff that mountain bikers do. However, there is a catch. Once you go wider than 28 millimeters, a tyre will start to become more of a drag, with the extra rolling resistance slowing you down. So for something like an endurance bike, which is designed to efficiently eat up miles on the road, a balance does need to be struck between efficiency and comfort. Oh, lovely. Most endurance bikes will give you room for up to a 35mm tyre. Many endurance bikes are bought for year-round riding, and as a result, riders will be looking to fit mudguards. We're not sure if this is a particularly British thing to do, but seldom is there a British winter club run without a collection of rattling full-length guards. It's one of the best things about winter. A gravel bike is destined for rougher surfaces, and to smooth out the ride, wider tyres are needed. You'll generally find a gravel bike giving you room for anything up to about 57 millimeters, though that can vary quite a bit depending on the purpose of the gravel bike in question. Another difference comes at the wheels, with gravel bikes deciding that they want to be extra difficult and have two wheel sizes that they can use. Yeah, way to make this even more confusing. The standard is a normal 700c wheel, but given the extra tyre width that a gravel bike uses, it's a good idea to pair that with a wider rim than you'd find on the average road bike. Gravel wheels will often have an internal rim width, that's the measurement from bead hook to bead hook, of around about 25 millimeters. This allows the tyre to sit on the rim with a straighter sidewall, giving you maximum width for your tyres, allowing you to run them at lower pressures, and there are also said to be some improvements to tyre feel in the corners. But then some bright spark decided that a gravel bike could benefit from a 650B wheel. What in the world is that? I can hear you asking it. It is simply a smaller diameter wheel, and the benefit is that it means some gravel bikes allow you to run an even larger tyre. This is great over the roughest ground, as the massive tyre volume soaks up the worst of the impacts from rocks and roots. Now, endurance bikes, meanwhile, they stick with the normal 700c wheel, and you'll often find the rims measuring 19 to 23 millimeters internally. Aluminium and carbon are both used for rim constructions, so there's no real difference there. A more subtle difference comes in the way that the frame positions you. An endurance bike will generally feature a taller head tube than a road race bike to put you in a slightly more upright position. But seeing as these bikes are designed to be efficient over long road rides, aerodynamics does matter, and so it will still put you in a sporty riding position. The wheelbase will be lengthened for a bit of stability, and the seat tube and head angles will be slack enough to calm the handling, but not so slack as to make it dull. A gravel bike's geometry, meanwhile, will depend on what it's actually for. A gravel race bike like the Specialized Crux will be long and low with a relatively tight wheelbase to keep it reactive. A gravel bike which is aimed at adventure riding, meanwhile, will be designed with stability, so the wheelbase will be a bit longer and it will get slacker head tube and seat angles. To give a practical example, let's take a quick look at the Trek Domane, an endurance road bike, and the Trek Checkpoint, the brand's gravel bike. The Domane is 29mm shorter in the reach and 4mm taller in the stack. Its head angle is 0.5 degrees slacker, while the seat angle is 0.5 degrees steeper. The gravel bike gets longer chainstays to accommodate the bigger tyres, while the bigger stack and higher BB drop are needed to aid clearance. While it is hard to generalise for a gravel bike, we will say that both these and endurance bikes are far more suitable for those looking for a comfortable riding position than a road race bike. So go for one of these if you want comfort. Gravel riders often want to take everything and the kitchen sink with them when they go for a ride, so many gravel bikes will be equipped with numerous mounting points for racks and frame bags. Mounts on endurance bikes are generally more limited to mudguard eyelets, though if you find some additional bottle cage bolts under the bottom bracket, then this can be a great place to store a tool and spares bottle, and we've seen mounts on the top tube as well for a small bag. You can never, I'd say, have too many places to store snacks. Here is where we have a clear difference. Gravel bikes mostly feature a 1x drivetrain with gears that you might think belong on a mountain bike, and this is a great point to stop because it's just started hammering it down and Harry with the camera is gonna have to move. Harry, do you want to come round here? Endurance bikes, meanwhile, they stick with a traditional 2x drivetrain that you'd usually see on a road bike. A gravel bike will tend to be ridden on terrain that causes greater fluctuations in speed, so you can get away with having bigger gaps between the teeth on the cassette, and you don't need to account for keeping like a perfectly even cadence. Gravel bikes are also generally geared to make it easier for riders to get up steep climbs. Gravel climbs can be very technical and therefore slow, so small climbing gears are going to be very useful if you want to, avoid walking. This sometimes comes at the detriment of top-end speed. For example, my gravel bike tops out at about 50 kph, while some endurance bikes like Vielos have embraced 1x drivetrains. Most stick with a 2x setup with similar gearing to a general road bike. At the front, you'll find often what is known as a compact chain set with 50 to 34 tooth chain rings, and at the back, the spacing of the cassette is kept a lot closer than a gravel bike with 11 to 34 and 11 to 36 tooth cassettes, a common sight on newer endurance bikes. That said, we'd say that the coming years will see an explosion of bikes using the classified power shift 2-speed hub gear to get the benefits of both systems. And then if you look closely at the rear derailleur, you might notice something different about a gravel bike. They tend to feature a rear derailleur with a clutch system. This helps to limit the movement of the pulley wheel cage when your bike is being shaken over rough terrain. Which is better for you will come down to a number of factors, with the primary consideration being where you want to ride the bike. Endurance bikes can handle some light gravel duties, and a gravel bike is still capable of being ridden on the road, but the gravel bike will be able to handle more off-road terrain, while the endurance bike will eat up miles with more efficiency. Both will generally be more comfortable and suitable for the average cyclist than a road race bike. But if we're going to make this as simple as possible, if you like riding in comfort on the road, taking in the occasional canal towpath, then get the endurance road bike. If you want to be able to get away from the road and ride wherever the feeling takes you, then get a gravel bike. It's going to be more suitable thanks to the lower gearing, more mounts, and it has larger tyre clearances. And with that said, we're going to try and pick our way home without getting absolutely drenched. If you like this video, then give us a like, subscribe, because we know 80% of you are not yet, and it really does help us out, and we will see you in the next one.